So what I am noticing, um, more and more are people who are gifted in things of the spirit. Okay. So simply said, there are people who walk fully in their spiritual gifts. They embrace it fully. They're not ashamed of it. They say what their work is. If they work in the roots, they say that. If they are gifted as mediums, as psychics, as psychic mediums, they say that and they express it on all platforms or whatever platform that they choose to express it on. They're very bold, as they should be, in the work that they do for other people. But that does not leave a person who is gifted in things of the spirit realm, which, by the way, all of us are gifted. I don't even know if I should use the term gifted because all of us are spirit first. So all of us have our unique way of expressing spirit, of expressing the divine, of expressing sovereignty. But not all of us are aware of it. Some of us are aware of it and choose to ignore it. Some of us are aware of it and are afraid of it. Some of us aren't even aware of it. Some people don't care, and that's fine because everyone has their unique paths, okay? And I say paths, plural, because we often find ourselves in a box when we want to talk about one's personal path. Okay, I digress. So you see people operating, popular people operating in their spirit, in their expression. However, that does not exempt an individual from also expressing their bias. It does not exempt a person from also expressing their perspective based on programming, specifically in this case, and on this channel, and on this platform. I talk about spiritual programming, or excuse me, religious programming. Just because you are expressing your powerful spiritual gifts, one is not exempt, again, from expressing their bias, expressing their racism, expressing their programming, okay? And why am I saying this? Because there are people who are still ignorant, of the spiritual practices and the spiritual technologies of ancient Africans, okay? There are people who are still very ignorant of ancient African spiritual systems and spiritual technologies. And these same people who are powerful, for example, psychic mediums, I'm just using that as a gift just to make my illustration simple to grasp. They are still allowing their programming to be infused. They're integrating their programming into their gifts, okay? And what is happening is that these people who are very powerful in what they do, they are feeding and giving more energy into the propaganda that started in religion centuries ago to demonize African traditional spiritual practices. And I have to say that I feel a certain kind of way about that. The damaging part also is that people that are doing this, they have a lot of influence. But if you were to ask them if they were operating out of programming, of course they would say no. Of course they would say no. They wouldn't even see what they were doing as assisting a system who has demonized and evilized, I don't even know if that's a word, and evilized, made African traditional systems evil. Okay? This, and I am when I'm talking, understand that I do have a person in my head that I'm thinking of, because this individual is a very powerful spiritualist and very well known, works with celebrities. However, when this individual speaks about African traditional systems, spiritual systems, this individual refers to them, simplifying them as witchcraft and demonic. And again, feeding into and being a tool for the continual propaganda of African traditional systems being bad. And this individual speaks as if what they're doing can somehow combat those systems. Do you get what I'm saying? And so the reason I'm bringing this up on this channel, on my platform, is because part of the work that I came here to do is to make sure that those traditional systems are resurrected, and that people who have a lineage, who have rights to those practices, are walking in them completely, without explanation, without shame, with complete confidence and complete power, without, to be just as loud in their power, in our power, just as a person like this individual that I'm talking to. And this person is not the only one. There's others like that attempt to continue to put a smear on those very powerful and beautiful systems that were here before any religion, that were here before any type of religious book, i.e. the Bible, that were before any spread of Catholicism, Christianity, Islam, okay? Those systems that existed before, okay? So I said all that to say this. You're watching this as one who is of the diaspora. Do not allow people of influence, okay, and that individual that I'm speaking about does have a lot of influence. I don't care how big they are. I don't care how loud they are. I don't care how right they sound. You be just as loud, okay, in your practice. You be just as loud in your ancestral veneration. You be just as loud in your spiritual connection. Whatever that looks like for you. Now, am I saying to, talk about, your practice out loud, talk about, talk about their practices out loud and just give away all the secrets and the knowledge? No, because in some cases, for those practices that you have to be initiated into, no, you can't do that. But for you as a spiritualist, what I believe is that it's time for us to be loud. It is time for us to be noticed. It's time for us to say, no, you're not going to continue to demonize the spiritual technology that is actually in my blood. My blood itself is spiritual technology. My cells are spiritual technology. Why do you think Henrietta Lack's blood or her cells were taken, and in her cells are cures for many diseases? Why do you think that is? So I came on here, maybe I just came on here to say it's time for you to be loud. If you are of the diaspora, it is time for you to be loud about your spiritual expression. Yeah. Be loud about your spiritual expression. All right. And do not allow, again, these people who have all this influence to use their religious programming. And listen, I thought I was done. They don't even identify with a specific religion, but it is part of religious programming to demonize ancient spiritual systems. Okay, that is part of the religious construct. So even though they may not be identifying with a religion, they are still operating from religious programming. All right, so be loud in your expression. All right, to support you, to hold the space for you in your expression. That's part of the work that I do. There are ways that you can work with me one-on-one. Go to unleashedalchemy.com. Don't forget that the Unleash Your Sovereignty 8-week live session begins August 31st. If you have not signed up to secure your spot, do that today. All right, we begin, Sunday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. The link to do that will be in the description box of this video.